Hi, this is Catherine Morgan from Point A to Point B Transitions, and today I am talking with Carol Roth about putting on virtual events because since we can't go face to face, no more glad handing, networking, conferences for a little bit. A lot of people are jumping online, but you may or may not be comfortable doing that. And Carol's been doing it for a long time, and she's going to share what you need to know.
So the first thing I'm going to say is that I think people are underestimating how long it's going to be before people want to go back and do regular events. Because even when things subside, hopefully at some point, I think that they're not going to be eradicated. And I think people are just going to be generally freaked out. So the idea of getting a bunch of people in a room, shaking hands in close quarters is something a lot of people are probably going to opt out of, potentially through the end of the year. So I think that strategically, if you've got an event that you're planning for fall, and oh, by the way, people's budgets have also been decimated in many cases, you may want to be thinking about plan B now. If you have a location already sort of hooked up, you can look and see if you have something called a force majeure clause in your contract, which is a quote unquote act of God that basically prevents you from having your event. And I feel like a lot of places will be flexible in terms of maybe you moving your contract to the following year, whatnot. But in the meantime, it's a great opportunity to host virtual events. And if you think about the types of things that most events have, whether it's keynote speakers, whether it's panels, whether it is booths, whether it is interaction between the different people at the conference, there are all kinds of technologies now that allow you to do those things and to do them remotely. So I think the first thing to think about is, what's going to be that interesting slate of content that you're going to be able to bring to have people come and want to sit and participate in a virtual forum. And fortunately, I think it's going to be easier now than ever. People are dying to have things to do. And as I said, I think people are going to be looking for different ways to connect that aren't in person and touching people in the future. So I think it's going to be easier for planners than you think. So getting great speakers and having really interesting content slates are really important. I always advocate having professionals do things like hosting and moderation, something I personally have done for brands as big as Microsoft and Canon and Bank of America to as small as, little small businesses and business organizations and the SBA and SCORE and whatnot. So it doesn't matter the size of your organization. If you want to get hundreds of people to come to your event, you're going to want to have somebody who can bring everything together and make it fun and make it interesting. So I think that getting that content slate is really important, and then finding the right technology provider. And as I said, there are just all kinds of different providers, some that are set up for virtual conferences who will actually have spaces for booths, that will have chat rooms for people to connect with each other. So it really does feel like a real conference. Or you can decide to do it more with, registering for webinars and registering for Zooms and having different links that you send out for people. But it's an opportunity to make it fun. And you can even still do swag bags and stuff. You can have them all sent to one place, to registry, have people put them together, send them out. I mean, there are ways to incorporate all the different things that you do in an offline event into an online event. You just need to give it some strategic thought and have a professional help you out with it.
I haven't done the kind of moderation that you've done, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Just out of curiosity, have you ever attended a virtual event?
I've attended a lot of virtual events. The trick is to curate the presenters, make sure that they are animated and can handle, if you're a good holding the room person, that the way you present your content may need to be a little bit different when you put it online. Are they going to interact? Are they going to just read? I mean, the worst thing in the world is to just hear somebody reading something. There's no difference in their tone. They're not engaging people. I think you got to shake it up. I think the way you speak and the way you present the content needs to fit the media that you're using.
Yeah, and that's a good point. There are a couple different ways to do this. You can have your content actually be streamed live. You can also record it in advance so that you know if somebody did a good job or not and needs to do a retake, and then broadcast that live and do a live Q&A. And I've done it both ways before, and there is a benefit to pre-recording it. So like you said, if somebody just completely drops the ball, especially since, not a lot of people and presenters aren't necessarily used to it, that you have a little flexibility going, you know what, that was like an okay take, let's do another take. And
PowerPoint slides are in an 8-point font with,
yeah.
with Excel spreadsheets embedded, and everyone's going.
Yeah, so you have the opportunity, even with something that's a virtual event, to basically lock and load some of that content on a taped basis, and then have some of the parts that are more dynamic, such as the audience Q&A afterwards, be live. And you can still do you can still have something like this where you have a panel and just record it, and then go, okay, here we are now. We're gonna take questions from the audience at the end after the broadcast, and still have that connective aspect. So again, just take some planning, but something that everybody who is in the event business or sees that value should be considering right now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Carol.